I'm Matt at Nexus Baseball, and this is episode 47 of the Tommy John Epidemic. This series is a YouTube read of content from the book Plague of the Gods, an outsider's perspective on baseball's Tommy John Epidemic, which is available now on Amazon. I decided to put this content on YouTube to make the material as accessible as possible. This series examines the science behind the most superhuman action the human body can produce, accelerating a baseball up to 100 miles per hour. In addition to systems that provide better safety to pitchers on the field and better determination of individual pitching capacities, the current system of starting and relief pitching should be reviewed as well. Baseball began with just pitchers, who went out to the mound to pitch a baseball game. As the number of games increased and workloads did as well, staffs increased accordingly. In the modern era, there has never been a more distinct contrast between starting and relief pitching. Modern starters throw usually 5 to 7 innings to allow between 3, 4, 5, or more relief pitchers to play matchups and close out the game. Due to pitch counts and the statistical disadvantage of having batters get multiple looks at a pitcher's repertoire, managers are more and more likely to remove a starter before they face the batting order for a third time. The rationale is that for almost every pitcher, their batting average against goes up significantly each time that they see a batter in that outing. Even a good pitcher might see hitters bat 200 the first time through, 250 the second, and 300 the third. Resultantly, starters need to let in very few hits to even consider getting to the 7th inning, particularly when combined with pitch counts. Teams as a result carry more pitchers, instead of bench players, than ever to allow enough relievers, most of whom only pitch 1 inning at most per appearance to finish the game. In 2019, the ratio league-wide has been 60% of the innings by starters and 40% by relievers, not factoring in innings by relievers starting games. Some teams that lack quality starting pitching will even do a bullpen day instead of having a 5th starter, requiring a long man or two to pitch 2 to 3 innings each, as well as 3 to 6 other relievers to get through the day. It is not uncommon to have 6 to 9 different pitchers appear in a single baseball game. The alternative would be to balance the workload among the pitching staff. Most Major League relief pitchers began their careers as starters and either could not develop a diverse enough pitching repertoire to see hitters multiple times, didn't have the endurance to push enough innings for a whole season without seeing a drop-off in effectiveness, or just because they were unsuccessful in the role of a starter. The drop-off in workload is massive, however, with modern relievers averaging approximately 1/3 the innings of starting pitchers. Most could comfortably pitch more, but teams prefer to use relievers in a maximum effort, 1-inning role to squeeze out every last mile per hour on their fastball, rather than stretch them out as multi-inning relievers. Multi-inning relievers, or long men, have fallen almost completely out of fashion and usually are relegated to a mop-up role in losing efforts. There is no rationale for this other than the cachet is traditionally less than that of a starter, holder, or closer role. Long men are usually therefore the weaker pitchers on the relief staff. The ideal solution to manage pitchers' workloads would be to have them pitch the same approximate volume a starter would, but to limit the possibility of fatigue by spreading that volume out more predictably to balance performance with recovery. Consider, for example, a theoretical pitching staff with 12 pitchers with a line rotation, like hockey, with 4 main lines of 3 pitchers each. A Major League pitching staff is required to cover just under 1,500 innings per year to complete the regular season. If each pitcher could throw 3 innings, or approximately 45 to 60 pitches per appearance, 3 times a week, the workload could be distributed more evenly. Each of the first 3 lines of pitchers, or trios, would pitch a game in combination, 3 innings each, have 2 rest days, 3 in the case of an off day, and then would pitch again. Assuming no injuries, this would result in each of these pitchers appearing in 54 games a season with 162 total innings. This is a modest workload for even a modern starter, but much more distributed. The benefits would be significant, as with a more distributed workload, pitchers would be able to better manage fatigue while developing a regular schedule to base their recovery around. This would avoid the massive exertion of pitching 7 innings once a week. Likewise, it would avoid the underwork potential of a reliever having a busy week of 3 appearances totaling 80 pitches, while the next week getting easy outs, and with an off day, only making 2 appearances totaling 30 pitches. It is this variability in workload that presents one of the biggest challenges in managing and training the body to develop and maintain endurance and muscular capability. This line system solves that issue while better catering to individual workload capabilities by allowing each pitcher to distribute their effort. It also avoids the issue of having to see a lineup for even a second time if things go well, maximizing the statistical advantage of a pitcher's arsenal. Different pitching combinations can be tailored as well, mixing up faster and slower pitchers in sequence, and matching those with different pitching mixes to force hitters to constantly change their approach with each at-bat. The fourth line would be, to borrow a term from football, the special teams. The closing pitcher and 2-spot line would make up this group. If a pitcher is off their game that day and unable to get outs, a fourth line pitcher could enter the game as a stopgap to get to the next member of the trio. Additionally, there will always be a situation where a powerful pitcher could be ideal to close out a close game. A pitcher like Aroldis Chapman, for example, would not likely possess the endurance to pitch 3 innings, given how physically exhausting their delivery is. They would be brought in to close out a game for the final inning, or in the highest leverage situation similarly, like how they are used today. Another advantage is that it would be impossible for opponents to tailor their lineups for the handedness of the announced starting pitcher. As for example, if a righty, lefty, righty trio were utilized, if the opposing manager stacked the lineup with left-handed batters, a lefty from the fourth line could easily be swapped in, resulting in a negative platoon or handedness advantage. Furthermore, it would remove the necessity for starters to throw bullpens in between starts. Although these can be mechanically helpful, that work would be much better utilized in the field to assist the team during the season, especially in the case of the most gifted pitchers. Even after the season ends, pitchers should continue to throw the same number of pitches they would on in the average week, but at reduced exertion. This is a fundamental change that's absolutely required, as many pitchers take a month to 3 months off throwing after the season ends, before getting back into throwing at the beginning of spring training. The most dangerous phase of resistance training a muscle is returning to training if it has been untrained for some time. The process of adapting to stresses, as well as mobility, is easily lost within a relatively short period of time. Pitchers are given 6 weeks to get back into game shape in spring training, forcing the body to adapt relatively quickly for opening day, particularly when they are only able to train twice every 5 days under current guidelines. This is one of the reasons spring training injuries are relatively common. The thought is that by not throwing in the off-season, they are healing. This is only true if a pitcher has an injury that would require more time to heal. If a pitcher is perfectly healthy after the season ends, the best thing they can do is maintain their routine consistently and with proper recovery to maintain their adaptation to the stress of pitching. They should, however, lower their chance of random injury and get additional recovery if required by reducing the strain every second workout through decreasing the volume of throwing slightly or by reducing the throwing speed. These off-season workouts should also take the place of in-season bullpens to refine the delivery and work on new pitches or techniques. Spring training instead should be the final step in preparation, seeing live at-bats again. This differs to how youth pitchers approach year-round baseball significantly, as the youth player, in contrast to a measured workload of a mature frame, is instead often pitching games and showcases year-round, in erratic volumes, and with no time to do maintenance work in the off-season. Join me for episode 48 next week. Remember, if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Your support makes this work possible. Also, if you want to jump ahead, please consider picking up the book on Amazon from the link in the description below. See you next week.